One thing I love most about being a conspiracy theorist is that eventually all truths come to light. Now, I found this all last night on the internet. I know there's some videos going around about it, but I had to do the research for myself because whenever I come across a conspiracy, if I find it to be somewhat credible, I always make sure to do my own research before I speak about it. Now, this one specifically can be found on your own, so if you'd like to do your own research, please follow along. Okay, so this is the virtual reading room. Now, you can find this on the State Department's website, statedepartment.gov, and I typed in the keyword search Hillary Clinton and Nephilim. Now, this is where they show you all of the information that's been requested thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, and we're allowed to see what these higher-up governmental officials are requesting information-wise. Now, when you type this in, it brings you up with a bunch of documents, but you have to specifically go to the 2019 documents. So you go there, you click on the 2019 State Department documents, and it pulls up a whole list, 423 pages. Now, being that I went through a ton of these pages, I know that this is on page 84. So go to page 84. And I'm going to zoom in for you guys here, but when you look here, you see coming out of the State Department a request for requesting documents pertaining to the resurrection chamber of Gilgamesh, the location of his body, and the location of the buried Nephilim. I'm not making this up, people. That's what this says. Now, this is King Gilgamesh, apparently. He is a deity. They say that he's in some kind of cryogenic state or preserved state where he still has vitals, apparently. I don't know any of this to be true or not. But if you go through ancient readings, old texts, you can read a lot of things about the stories of Gilgamesh and his epic powers that he had. I think it's called the Epic of Gilgamesh. However, look at all these things that are adorned on his body. The different trinkets, the various jars that are found around him. These all look very Sumerian to me. Now, if this is a hoax, somebody went through a lot of trouble to elaborate all of these different things, but I honestly don't think it is now that I've seen this request coming out of the State Department. What do you guys think? So I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who are going to be saying things like, oh, that's not real. Oh, that's fake. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist. I get that. I get that you have so much cognitive dissonance when it comes to receiving information that you don't believe. However, just look at the evidence. It's all right in front of you. Wake up. It's time. As some of you guys know, last night I went to a deep dive through the State Department's email logs, at least the information that they can show you that's not redacted. Because of the Freedom of Information Act, actually anybody's allowed to see this information, so they're doing it right in front of us. But check out what I found here. So as I'm scrolling through these 439 emails of theirs, I find this little tiny nugget that actually really piqued my interest. But you see here it says, request of information for Mother Teresa, Bilderberg, and Vatican City. Now, what do Mother Teresa, the Bilderberg Group, and Vatican City all have in common, you ask? I had to do the information research myself because I didn't understand it either. And it was all being requested by John Greenwald. I don't know who that is, but also doing the research to see what the connection is between the three and why he was so interested in this in 2018. Come to find out that the Bilderberg Group was actually a contributor to most of the funds that were given to the Ministry of Charities. And the Ministry of Charities was a foundation and nonprofit organization that was actually founded by Mother Teresa. Now, I'm not sure if you know this about Mother Teresa, but she's not the woman that you all thought she was. She's actually quite a tyrant. And if you're not familiar with this information, you can please feel free to Google it or fact check me. But the Missionary of Charities, they have been recently undergoing a lot of scrutiny and investigations for child trafficking and sex trafficking and selling of babies. Meet Sister Concilia and Amina Indwar. Both ladies were arrested and convicted of child trafficking and selling of children. Both of these women were in charge of the pregnant unwed mothers of this charity. They would house these women, they would birth their babies, and then they would take them and sell them. Both women were released from prison shortly after their arrest, and were both granted bail for less than $1,000 US. Actually, for the sister, Concelia, hers was less than $150. Now, when you ask me how come they were released, how did this all happen, it's because they're all organized with the whole situation with Mother Teresa being such a powerful influence in the charitable and Christian communities, the Catholic communities. She was a large voice in this all happening. Since then, India has done a major investigation on all of the missionary of charities that are located in their country. Now, after doing this research and coming across that information, why was this John Greenwald looking for these specific things? For Mother Teresa, the Vatican, and the Bilderberg Group? I don't know that for sure. But I do know that I came across something else about Mother Teresa that's gonna be kind of spicy. I'm running out of time, so we're gonna do a part 2, but you're gonna like this one, trust me. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the Mother Teresa investigation. So if you missed part 1, go back and watch it. However, just to recap really quickly, we found out in the first part that Mother Teresa is not who she says she is. She's definitely not the loving, sainthoodly, godly woman that masses of people believe. She's actually quite a tyrant. She's been accused of trafficking, selling children, and misappropriating funds from her own foundation. Now, I promised you something kind of spicy about Mother Teresa. Now, I couldn't really find much information on this because, as you know, YouTube, Google, even Yandex has been censored by our almighty government, and not to mention, this time it's not just the government, it's the Vatican as well. So they're both coming together to erase and scrub all the information that they can about this. However, there are people who seem to have the inside knowledge that Mother Teresa was also Father Terry. I don't know if this is true or not. Claiming that she was once a man and now is a transgendered woman, it's a claim that I can't back up in any way because I have no proof. I actually don't even have the proof that Father Terry even existed. I tried to find it. I tried to find as much evidence as I could about Father Terry, but there was nothing there. But aside from Mother Teresa being accused of being Father Terry, she has also been accused of, or I don't know if accused is the right word, but there are claims that she is the mother of Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now let's take a look at the two side by side. Clearly you can see they have the same bulbous nose, the same mouth, the same lips, the same crow's feet, the same sunken in eyes, and quite frankly, the same distance apart in regards to their eyes. I'm sure their forehead looks the same as well. So in regards to the correlation of them looking like each other, that is definitely a thing. Correlation does not mean causation, and it definitely does not make a guilty party. However, I can see why people would think this. Now, I don't want to delve too deep into that rabbit hole because honestly, for my channel, I do feel like I only want to present things that I believe are factual. Only things that I believe I've done the research on, that I can prove and present to you with canonical evidence that it is 100% real, or at least 100% plausible in some way. You know what I mean? I don't like to present information that's hearsay or that's just straight up conspiracy without any type of valid proof. So I'm going to leave that at that. There are many more things that I could say about Mother Teresa to defame her name, but that's kind of, we're going to close a book on this because there's so much more that I found in those state documents that I'd like to go through. It's pretty interesting, so let's keep on going. Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the Mother Teresa investigation. So if you missed part 1, go back and watch it. However, just to recap really quickly, we found out in the first part that Mother Teresa is not who she says she is. She's definitely not the loving, sainthoodly, godly woman that masses of people believe. She's actually quite a tyrant. She's been accused of trafficking, selling children, and misappropriating funds from her own foundation. Now, I promised you something kind of spicy about Mother Teresa. Now, I couldn't really find much information on this because, as you know, YouTube, Google, even Yandex has been censored by our almighty government, and not to mention, this time it's not just the government, it's the Vatican as well. So they're both coming together to erase and scrub all the information that they can about this. However, there are people who seem to have the inside knowledge that Mother Teresa was also Father Terry. I don't know if this is true or not. claiming that she was once a man and now is a transgendered woman, it's a claim that I can't back up in any way because I have no proof. I actually don't even have the proof that Father Terry even existed. I tried to find it. I tried to find as much evidence as I could about Father Terry, but there was nothing there. But aside from Mother Teresa being accused of being Father Terry, she has also been accused of, or I don't know if accused is the right word, but there are claims that she is the mother of Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now let's take a look at the two side by side. Clearly you can see they have the same bulbous nose, the same mouth, the same lips, the same crow's feet, the same sunken in eyes, and quite frankly, the same distance apart in regards to their eyes. I'm sure their forehead looks the same as well. So in regards to the correlation of them looking like each other, that is definitely a thing. Correlation does not mean causation, and it definitely does not make a guilty party. However, I can see why people would think this. Now, I don't want to delve too deep into that rabbit hole because, honestly, for my channel, I do feel like I only want to present things that I believe are factual. Only things that I believe I've done the research on, that I can prove and present to you with canonical evidence that it is 100% real, or at least 100% plausible in some way. You know what I mean? I don't like to present information that's hearsay or that's just straight up conspiracy without any type of valid proof. So I'm going to leave that at that. There are many more things that I could say about Mother Teresa to defame her name, but that's kind of, we're going to close a book on this because there's so much more that I found in those state documents that I would like to go through. It's pretty interesting, so let's keep on going. So aside from their striking resemblance, which, by the way, is a remote plausibility, let's look at this. This is the only picture I could find of the late Stephen Anthony Fauci, which is supposedly his true father, but I don't think that they look anything alike, honestly. That Fauci does not look anything like the current Fauci. I mean, even add years onto this face, it doesn't look anything like Dr. Fauci. This is Anthony's mother. So now this does look like she could be related to Fauci, for sure. This looks like this could be his mother. But let's look at this. That to me looks far more like Anthony Fauci than the father Fauci. So I would say if, in case Mother Teresa was a transgender female, she could have possibly did the thing and made the baby, you know? I really don't think that these two resemble each other whatsoever, but you can have your own opinion and I can have mine. That's the beauty of this country. But I really do appreciate your continued feedback on my videos because it is helping me boost my algorithm to other people. So thank you so much for doing that. And I look forward to seeing more of your comments. Hey, TikTok. Okay, so right now we've discussed a lot about Mother Teresa. I'm kind of actually getting a little bit over that subject. So I'm going to just say one last thing about her. And then we're going to move on. We're going to close the door on her and Fauci, and we're just going to move on over because I'm done arguing about it. I don't want to keep going down. There's so many rabbit holes that we can go down together that, like, I'm not going to die on this cross. But I will say this about her. Final thing. So John Greenwald was the man that I mentioned at the beginning of this series who was requesting the information from the State Department. He paused to read this. You can see here that he is clearly requesting the documents from the FBI of Mother Teresa, and they're all classified. None of them are to be declassified. They're deemed top secret. So when I say that the government is censoring things, this is exactly what I mean. That's why the internet is scrubbed of anything that's related to anything about her birth records. You can't find any information on her except for what's on Wikipedia or on the conspiracy theory channels. So this is the only thing you can find about her, or at least that the FBI is willing to disclose. All 32 pages redacted or classified. Now, I choose to end with this because it's not for lack of trying or trying to do the research on Mother Teresa to find any connections with her and Fauci. Trust me, I tried for hours to look for that information, but that information is just simply not to be found. You can't find her birth records, you can't find anything about her past. It's all just on like Wikipedia or on the conspiracy channels, which also aren't factual. So, but now I'm showing you this because it's not just because I'm not looking, it's because the FBI is actively redacting her files, keeping them classified even after the Freedom of Information Act. They still won't let you see her files. So I believe in my heart and soul that the government, and clearly the FBI, is censoring all the information about her for a reason. And it's not because she was, you know, an upstanding, charitable woman. I don't believe that's true at all. But again, this is just my opinion. Everything I've stated here is just my opinion, and then also strewn in with facts. But in regards to her relationship with Fauci, I can't for certain say anything like that. So if you are on my channel thinking that like I'm spreading misinformation or something like that, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I just am presenting the facts as I get them, or I'm presenting the information as it comes into me as well. And I'm presenting what I believe is true. Now, just because I believe it's true doesn't make it true at all. Opinions are not facts, and this channel is all about entertainment, all about opinion, and hopefully to wake some people up. Wow, I was not expecting to get that response from the last video of Mother Teresa. Thank you guys so much for commenting and leaving your positive feedback. It's really encouraging, and I really appreciate you liking my content. So that being said, let's move forward in this series. This is a series where I'm actually delving into the information that's coming out of the State Department in regards to the Freedom of Information Act. Now, this information is free for the public to see, and honestly, I think that they think that we are too stupid to actually go digging through and seeing what they're requesting, because there's some serious stuff in there that they're looking for. So I already covered Hillary Clinton and the Nephilim. I covered Mother Teresa and Fauci in so many ways. But now, take a look what I found. Okay, here you can see it states, requesting all records reflecting communications, including email messages, email attachments, notes taken during phone calls, and calendar invitations or meetings, including the search terms migrant and/or caravan and Soros and/or Middle Eastern. Records describing the process of this request, including records sufficient to identify each term and used by the locations of the custodians who searched them, and tracking sheets and used to track the processing of the request. Oh my god, that was a lot. But then go down further. The person continues, all final talking points prepared for Secretary Pompeo regarding the so-called migrant caravan and issues related to the such as arrival times, size and composition of the caravan, rules of engagement, including but not limited to those prepared for intergovernmental meetings, media appearances, congressional engagements, and other official events for which final taking notes are prepared. Records describing this process of the request, including records sufficient to identify search terms, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so essentially, does anybody remember back in April of 2018, the migrant caravan, the never-before-seen thousands of refugees coming from Honduras, and then gaining such momentum from people in Guatemala, Mexico, and all coming towards the US border? Does anybody remember that? I know I sure remember this, and that's because the media attention around this caravan was astounding. Every day, almost 24-hour coverage of these people. Now let me ask you something. If you're on a caravan traveling from Honduras, walking 45 miles a day to the United States in less than a month, wouldn't you think that you would be dirty? Wouldn't you think you would need water, food, provisions, shelter, tents? These people had to walk 45 miles a day. That's almost unheard of, on foot. And most of these people are wearing flip-flops, and there's not a speck of dirt on them. I've seen poverty in the Latin American countries. This is not poverty. These people are clean, they're happy, they're strolling down the park, it seems. This is going to be a long part, so come back for part 2. Good morning, TikTok. So, my video was reinstated even though it was flagged for bullying and harassment, which is totally not true because I was not bullying nor harassing anybody, which is totally against my policy. However, I would like to continue with part 2 of the caravan story. So, or I should say investigation, really. So as we left off in part 1, we had found that the State Department had requested information for the caravan of migrants coming from Honduras to America back in 2018. And as I pointed out, I found it really hard to believe that these migrants were actually traveling that distance per day. According to the news sources, they were traveling 45 miles per day on foot. Now, being that I have myself traveled on foot from Portugal to Spain, it was a 286-kilometer walk. I could only do 16 miles a day, and I'm in pretty good shape. And I could only do 16 miles a day. How are these families with women and children, young infants, traveling 45 miles per day every single day for a month? I find it really hard to believe, but let's continue with what I was finding. One thing the media definitely didn't want you to see was the caravans actually in caravans. These were the refugees that were coming in from Honduras, being bused and shuttled all the way through, only stopping to take pictures and photos for the cameras. As you can see here, say cheese everybody, it's totally staged. And as you can see here, migrants being paid off. How is it that you're paying off the people to be there when they're traveling as refugees? It just doesn't make sense. And then you see these wristbands. Wristbands that are color-coded, coordinated for whatever the agenda was for the day. The news reporters would take these color codings and know exactly where to shoot, what to film, and what content would be produced. So it makes you wonder, who funded the caravan? Where did the money come from? Why? Why at this particular time? Was it because Donald Trump was building the wall? Or was it because they had a political agenda that they wanted to see come to fruition? Meet George Soros, a financial backer with very deep pockets, who had ties with NAMBLA, the pedophile group, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter's riots. He is a master of controlled opposition. If you're unaware of what controlled opposition is, essentially what it is when you control both sides of the board. When you play the red pieces or the black pieces, put them together, but you are the chess player on both sides. That's controlled opposition. And George Soros knows this to the T. His money can be found in almost every riot and every controlled political movement that there's been since dating back to the 70s. Let's go to part 3. Hey, TikTok. All right, so I was not expecting to have almost double my followers in the last 4 days. It's been crazy. And for the most part, you guys have been super nice and respectful, and I really appreciate you guys all enjoying my content and commenting and sharing your information that you know. You've honestly, a lot of you have sent me down more rabbit holes than I can even keep track of, and I would love to present videos for everything I'm learning, which I'm gonna try to do, but in order, I guess. But then I might jump around because I find things that are so interesting and I just want to share them with you guys. But just for FYI, just for those of you who aren't as nice and who are more on the spicy side of things, I do appreciate your comments too. Just know that basically if you want to spread hate on my channel, all you're doing is really boosting the algorithm so that my video gets pushed out to more people. And then you're also letting the algorithm know that you're like interacting with the video, so they'll end up sending you more of my content, which is like, ugh, I don't want you to see more of my content if you're just going to be rude about it. So could you just refrain from not maybe responding on my page, or just keep scrolling? It's not that hard. Instead of spreading hate and, you know, bad juju, I'd just rather not deal with it. But if I have to, I have to. I can, you know, roll with the punches. But just know that if you do leave hate on my comments or anything like that, I'm not going to just sit down and take punches. I'm going to retaliate in some way, at least respond. But that being said, my whole purpose of my page is not to divide the parties. I'm not trying to divide Republicans and Democrats or left-wing and right-wing. I'm not trying to do that. If anything, I want to bring everybody together in a place of truth and honesty that I feel is truth and honesty, and allow people to see past the veil of the lies that are being told to us. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to drive a wedge between any of the groups. So if you do feel like commenting on my page saying things like, oh, you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, like I don't want that. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not here to drive a divide. If anything, I'm here to bring people together and spread truth. So I'm going to continue to post my stuff, and I hope you guys continue to like it. Hey everybody. Okay, so today I saw some big news happen on Twitter. There was a reporter in the Vatican, and she stated that it looked like there was a possibility of the Pope resigning. She stated that there was a lot of commotion, a lot of bishops and priests coming into the Vatican, and apparently her guide was saying how unusual it was, and it seemed to be that the Pope was resigning. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I know that there was definitely odd activity happening there this morning. So With that being said, I wanted to discuss a little bit more about the Vatican and the Pope that's in there right now. So if some of you may or may not know, the art at the Vatican is quite interesting. It's made by several artists over the course of several hundred years, but the most recent art that's been placed inside the Vatican in the Pope's chamber, not the Pope's chamber, I believe it's his, he speaks there, where the Pope speaks. I don't know that culture very well, so I don't know what it's called where he speaks, but the art that's in there is quite unique. Unique in the sense of it is very reptilian, and let's take a look at it. The audience hall was first built in 1977. This is where the Pope speaks. You can see here that this window looks kind of like a snake's eye with a slit in the middle, and here you can see what looks like fangs at the front of the stage where the Pope sits. As you zoom out, you see that there's clearly two eyes and the fangs of the snake. The reptilian skin, the fangs, the slit in the eyes, it's all very snake-like. Now let's take a look at the outside of the building. This, again, looks almost exactly like a snake's head. You see the muzzle in the front, the eye on the side, and on the other side is the other window as well. It looks clearly like the exact shape of a snake's head. So now the most interesting thing to me about this Pope's audience hall is, what do you think is missing here? Out of all their new art, new architecture, what is the one thing missing from this audience hall? Any depictions of Jesus Christ, maybe? Any real depictions of him, at least as a traditional sense of how Catholics and Christians see him. There's no Mary, there's no Joseph the carpenter, there's nothing about traditional Catholicism or Christianity is depicted in this audience hall. That's a little strange to me. But then when you look behind the Pope, what is depicted is their rendition of the second coming of Jesus Christ. This is supposed to be Jesus in his return after his resurrection, after a nuclear fallout, being modern day interpretation of his resurrection. He's supposed to be resurrected from all the nuclear waste that happens. It's kind of interesting to see, but it does look quite demonic. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more coming in part 2. Hey TikTok. So we're doing part 2 of what's going on at the Vatican. Okay, so when we left off in the architecture and the art that was happening over in the Pope's chambers, or the audience hall. And I apologize about not having the right name about it earlier, but it is the audience hall. But anyway, so we're continuing from there. I'm not by any means trying to bully or say anything that the church is demonic or anything like that. I'm simply pointing out facts about the church, about the Vatican, that is common knowledge to everyone. And so please, TikTok, don't take this down, because I'm not bullying anybody. Now, personally, I cannot say that the church is or is not practicing a religion that is demonic, but I can show you something like this.
Luminaribus misceatur, flammas eius, Lucifer matutinus inveniat. Ille inquam Lucifer qui nescito casum, Christus filius tuus, qui regressus ab inferis, humano generis serenus iluxit, et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum.
Now, I will admit that when I did the research myself, because I don't like to just assume that this is the correct translation, it does have different meanings depending on how you look at it in Latin. So essentially, there is that version that was put on the screen, but there's also different versions depending on how you put the words in to Google Translate. They are similar, but not necessarily. Like Lucifer could mean light bringer or bringer of light, as opposed to Lucifer, the actual angel, the fallen angel. So it can have different contexts and different meanings, but essentially it could mean that. It could have both meanings, you know? But because I can't confirm or deny that the church is actually practicing demonic or satanic worship, I cannot definitively say that that song has to do with Lucifer or Lucifer, which is bringer of light. I can't confirm or deny either way. Now, the Vatican is known for holding many secrets. Secrets from hidden money to treasure to books in the Bible that have been hidden from public view. There are many things about the Vatican that cannot be proven, but just speculated on, including the fact that they perhaps are not praying to the old Abrahamic God, but perhaps the Babylonian sun god. Let's go to part 3.
But how can that be? Look what love gave us. A world full of killing and blood spilling. That world never came. And they say that a hero could save us. I'm not gonna stand here and wait.
Hey, TikTok. Gosh, so my last post actually kind of sent me into this whole thing today. I've been in this strange mood now because of that post that I just made about the girl who just barely escaped from being trafficked or abducted. It's quite triggering for me. I myself, being a survivor of abduction and a long history of childhood abuse and addiction, and it's been a long road, but it was all very triggering, all of it, in regards to just making me feel helpless, like, what can I do to save anybody? What can any of us do to save anybody? But I think a lot of you who follow me on my page also agree with me that this has to stop. This taking of children, murdering the innocent, it's time to stop this. I'm not fully ready to tell my story yet in regards to my abduction, so if we could refrain from any questions about that, I probably won't be ready to tell that story for a long time. I was thinking in regards to my platform, like, I want to build a solid audience base before, like, I even try to venture out into that land, because it's a pretty intense story. And when I feel the time comes to tell the story, it'll be because I'm not only ready to tell it from a place of being healed from the whole situation, but also because I feel like having a larger audience base will help get the message out there and potentially save other lives. So then it got me thinking, what can I do to help? What can I do to help anybody? And I thought of the little girl and how women are going missing and children are going missing, and largely in the indigenous communities. It's fact that the number 3 cause of death for indigenous women is murder. The large population in both US and Canada of indigenous women go missing or are murdered on a daily basis, and nobody seems to be talking about it. But ask yourselves, why is it that across our nation the media is silent on this topic? You hear about Ukraine and Russia and China, but you don't hear about these atrocities happening to the women in our very own backyards. Why is it that the media is silent on this subject? Why do they ignore and just pretend that it's not happening? You have to ask yourself, why are these women the only people that are fighting for themselves? Why are we not all standing together to fight this? I have much more to say on this topic, so check out part 2. Okay, TikTok, so I left off on the last video discussing the pandemic that's happening in regards to the indigenous women that are going missing, the women and children that are going missing from both our country and Canada. Now, this is a huge problem in regards to the lack of media attention, the lack of support, and the lack of all-around awareness on the subject. In 2016, it was reported that there were over 5,712 indigenous women and children that were reported missing to the federal, state, and local governments. However, the federal government only listed on their website that there was 115 cases. Now, why would there be such a huge discrepancy in the numbers compared to what they're reporting and what the government is reporting? It's a little strange, don't you think? In Canada, reportedly, there was over 4,000 people that were missing that year. Now, why is this pandemic happening? Why are these women going missing and these children of indigenous cultures going missing and nobody cares? How is that even possible that the media is silent on this subject? Are we living in some Twilight Zone world where there's no honorable investigative reporters? Are there nobody who's willing to stand up for these women? And then I ask myself, where's the government? Why aren't they stepping in on any of this? Now I know what I'm about to say next is going to be hard for some of you to hear. So if you could please refrain from your rhetoric and just keep an open mind. Because there actually was somebody in our government that was trying to help the situation. Someone that the media plastered as a demon, as a racist, as a person that had no care for anybody but himself. And that person is Donald Trump. The moment that he stepped into office, both Donald and Ivanka had set on their crusade to stop human trafficking. Almost immediately after taking office, Donald Trump issued this statement: "My administration will focus on ending the absolute horrific practice of human trafficking, and I am prepared to bring the full force and weight of our government whatever we can do in order to solve this horrific problem." In 2019, he signed 2 executive orders in regards to the genocide happening against Indigenous women. The Not Invisible Act of 2019 and Savannah's Act of 2019. Both of these acts were specifically designed to help the women and children of the indigenous cultures that were going missing. But I bet you never heard that, have you? I bet you've never heard it because the media didn't ever bother to mention it. They never once reported on the fact that Ivanka and Donald both were on a crusade to stop human trafficking, and that includes helping the women and children that were going missing of the indigenous cultures. I know no matter what I say about Trump, the left is never going to like him. But I do hope that you can see that he did a lot more than you even know. Part 3. Hey truth seekers of TikTok, welcome back. And if you're new, just know that this is a page where you will be red-pilled. And if you don't know what that means, it basically means that you will no longer see the world with your rose-colored glasses, and you will no longer have your head in the sand, but you will see the truth and the lies that have been fed to us for generations. Because on this page, I'm here to expose the truth, or at least what I believe is the truth. You don't have to agree with me. You don't even have to like my content. So just know that this is your chance. And if you do want to stay, stick around. You're in for a wild ride. Okay, so most of you already know this information, but if you don't, this is a document that was produced by the FBI, produced by the Cyber Division in 2007. The document exposes the various logos utilized by various adult groups that were focused on liking of younger children. Now, I won't say the word out loud, but I think we all know what word I'm talking about. It's you know? Anyway, let's take a look at this logo here, the triangle. Now, this triangle is notorious, and it symbolizes the preference for having a taste for younger men. But as you can see the triangle here for the Pacific Crest Trail Association, also here utilized by Elpida. Now, when you look into these corporations' finances and you follow the money, you see where all of these connections lie, and how with 6 degrees of separation, they're all connected to each other. You can even see the logo here on a Disney show from the 1990s, as well as here on our beloved Pope Francis. Now, let's go to the second page where we see the heart symbol. The heart, almost like the triangle, only different, symbolizes the affinity towards liking of little women, young girls. And we can see the heart symbol here for the company New Star Kafala. And we see it here with Walls, the company that produces most of the world's ice cream. On this video that I posted a few days ago, I noticed the symbol right there, which got me thinking. In this video, you see that this woman saves this girl from getting kidnapped. But in reality, is she actually involved with the kidnapping of these kids? And perhaps she just changed her mind at the last moment? I don't know for sure, but I do know that it was kind of suspicious that she is with this logo here, and then she just knew exactly what he was going to do at the right time. But I digress. You see it here, here, and almost everywhere else that you can find an outsource or outreach program for children. Which brings me to Laura Gaylor Silsby, once the president and CEO of AlertSense, the company and subsidiary of Amber Alert, the place that helps find missing children, as well as the founder of New Life Children's Refuge. Now, Laura plays a huge part in the rest of this story because she connects a lot of the big players together. I'll tell you how in part 2. Welcome back, TikTok and truth seekers, and if you're new here, welcome. I do want to say that this is part 2 of the Red Pill series that I'm doing today, and if you have missed part 1, it's the video before this one. Now also, I would like to also mention that if you do like my content, if you like the information that I'm bringing you, please comment, like, subscribe, share. If you hit the share button and you hit copy link, that's all you gotta do, and it helps boost the algorithm. And if you don't mind, commenting helps too, as well as doing duets and sharing the information, is just to get as much of it out there as possible. Because I know that a lot of times TikTok will shadow ban my videos because they don't want people getting the knowledge that I'm putting out there. So anyway, if you want to help, please feel free to do any of those things that I mentioned before. But now let's get back into the story. We left off with Laura Gaylor Silsby, the former CEO and president of Amber Alert and Alert Sense. However, in 2012, she was arrested and convicted of trying to traffic 33 children from Haiti. Though she was caught red-handed, her time in jail was minimal. Lucky for her, she had friends in high places. Now, who can we think of who was involved in Haiti pretty heavily? You guessed it, the Clinton Foundation, taking in almost $13 billion of charitable funds that were supposed to be appropriated to building homes for the Haitians that were devastated by the earthquake in 2010. And now meet Laura's attorney, Jorge Puello, a man who in 2003 was convicted of smuggling children from Central America to Canada. After only serving 2 years in prison, he was then released to start practicing freely law. He was brought on and paid for by the Clinton Foundation to represent Laura Silsby in her trial. She was caught red-handed trying to smuggle 33 children and merely received a slap on the wrist. She was released in no time, thanks to the Clintons. Now, you would imagine that with $12 billion in funds, especially donated by charity, that you would be able to build a pretty successful foundation for the Haitian people, especially after their devastating earthquake. However, the Clintons managed to only build one single home with $12 billion in received charitable funds. However, in 2010, this did happen. The beautiful Chelsea Clinton with her almost $5 million wedding. It's been speculated that the Clintons did use the funds that they received from the charitable donations for this wedding. Now you might be asking me, what's the point? Why bringing any of this up? And the truth is that I'm bringing this up because I believe that when people in power abuse that power and they steal and lie and cheat, that they should be held accountable for it. And Clintons are some of the worst. I'm going to continue with the Red Pill series, so let's continue to part 3 and 4. Welcome back, truth seekers. So somebody pointed this out to me about the video I made yesterday, which is kind of interesting, but take a look at this. The picture taken at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Do you guys see anything? Anyone in particular? I'll give you a second. That's right. Front row and center. Look who it is. Miss Ghislaine Maxwell. And yes, I did say their name wrong, but still. You get my point here. But isn't it just funny that I was just making a video about Laura Silsby and the Bilderberg Group and the Vatican and all the symbols and everything, and it all just ties together when you look at it. And now we see one of the biggest players in regards to child trafficking at the wedding of Chelsea Clinton, front row and center. Be safe out there and stay awake, my friends. These people are everywhere. Good morning, everybody. So guess what? It's happening. TikTok has been actively removing and censoring my videos. I knew this was going to happen, but part 2 of the Vatican story, or the Vatican background thing, has been taken down for violating community guidelines. Because of my recent attention that I've been getting on this app, basically a lot of my videos have been taken down. And we all know what that means. Not only am I being actively censored, but my freedom of speech, my First Amendment right, is being taken away from me. But it makes you wonder, why are they doing this? Is it because I'm actually onto something? Is it because what I'm saying to you guys is true? I would think so. They're basically outing themselves by censoring my stuff. It's really funny. Okay, so I'd like to say these 2 things. 1, I'm making a backup account, so please follow me there. I'll post it in the comments. 2, I am not suicidal and I would never hurt myself, so do not think that I would kill myself ever, okay? Love you, bye.